Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Are you learning English? Do you want to improve your listening? Do you want to build your vocabulary? Do you want to speak English with more confidence? Then you are in the right place. Today's story is called Nothing is Free in Life. It is told in easy English. It has a powerful message. It will teach you about hard work. It will teach you about patience. It will remind you never to give up on your dreams. Before we begin, please subscribe to the channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Leave a comment below. Tell me where you are watching from. I love reading your comments. I love seeing people from all around the world learning English together. Now, get comfortable, relax, and let's begin today's story.
When I was a young boy, I lived in a small town with my parents. I was a good boy, but I had one problem. I always wanted things to be easy. When I saw successful people, I thought they were lucky. When I saw a rich businessman, I said, he is lucky. When I saw a strong athlete, I said, he has good genes. When I saw a smart student, I said, she was born intelligent. I believed that success came without hard work. I thought some people simply received good things from life. Because of this belief, I never worked very hard. If a task was difficult, I stopped. If I failed once, I quit. I wanted results without effort. One day, I saw an old farmer working in a field under the hot sun. The farmer was sweating and carrying heavy bags. I laughed and said, "Why do you work so hard? Life should be easy." The old farmer smiled and asked, "Do you think food grows by itself?" I answered, "No." The farmer said, "Then remember this. Every fruit you eat comes from someone's hard work." I did not understand the lesson. I walked away and continued believing that life would somehow give me everything I wanted. Years passed. I became older, but my thinking stayed the same. I dreamed about having money, a nice house, and a happy life, but I did very little to achieve those dreams. Every day, I waited for something good to happen. One evening, I was sitting alone. I looked around and noticed that many people I knew were moving forward in life. Some started businesses, some learned new skills. Some worked hard and improved themselves. I felt confused. I asked myself, why are they growing while I stay in the same place? For the first time, I began to wonder if I was missing an important lesson. One morning, I met an old teacher sitting under a large tree. The teacher was known for giving good advice. I sat beside him and asked, "Why do some people succeed while others fail?" The teacher smiled and pointed to two birds building nests. "Look at those birds," he said. I watched carefully. The birds flew back and forth all day. They carried small pieces of grass and tiny branches. It looked like slow work. The teacher asked, "Do you think the nest will build itself?" "No," I replied. "Then why should success be different?" The teacher asked. I stayed silent, and he continued. Everything valuable has a price. Sometimes the price is time. Sometimes it is effort. Sometimes it is patience. But there is always a price. I listened carefully. Then he picked up a seed from the ground. "This small seed can become a great tree," he said. "But first, it must spend years growing. It must face rain, wind, heat, and cold. The tree earns its strength." The words touched my heart.
The teacher continued, "Many people want the fruit, but they do not want to plant the seed. They want success, but they do not want the work. They want confidence, but they do not want practice. They want money, but they do not want discipline." I thought about my own life. I realized I had spent years waiting instead of working. Before leaving, the teacher gave me one final piece of advice. Never ask, "Why don't I have success?" Instead, ask, "What price have I paid for success?" That sentence stayed in my mind for many days. The next morning, I decided that my life had to change. For years, I had spent my time waiting for success instead of working for it. I had dreams, goals, and hopes for a better future, but I finally understood that dreams alone were not enough. If I wanted a different life, I had to become a different person. So I made a decision. I would stop waiting and start taking action. I woke up early for the first time in many years. It was not easy. My body wanted to stay in bed, and my mind kept telling me that I could start tomorrow. But deep inside, I knew that tomorrow had become my favorite excuse. So I got up, sat down, and made a simple plan. I did not create a perfect plan. I did not try to change everything at once. I simply promised myself that every day I would learn something new and take one small step toward my goals. The beginning was much harder than I expected. When I tried learning new skills, I made mistakes again and again. Sometimes I felt frustrated because I was not improving as quickly as I wanted. When I started exercising, my body hurt and every movement felt uncomfortable. When I tried reading books and learning new ideas, I became tired and lost focus. There were many days when I questioned myself and wondered if all this effort was worth it. Many times I wanted to quit. Many times I wanted to return to my old habits because they felt comfortable and familiar. It was easier to make excuses than to do the work. It was easier to dream than to take action. But whenever I felt like giving up, I remembered the teacher's words. Everything valuable has a price. Those words became a guide in my life. Whenever something felt difficult, I reminded myself that the difficulty was part of the price. Whenever I made mistakes, I reminded myself that learning was part of the price. Whenever I felt tired, I reminded myself that growth was part of the price. So instead of quitting, I continued moving forward, one day at a time. Days became weeks, and weeks became months. At first, the changes were so small that I could barely notice them. But as time passed, I started to see a difference. I could focus longer than before. I felt stronger, both physically and mentally. I learned new ideas and developed new skills. The things that once seemed impossible slowly became easier. Most importantly, I began to trust myself. I started believing that I could keep my promises and that I was capable of improving my life through consistent effort. One day, a friend asked me, "How did you become so disciplined?" I laughed because I did not see myself as a disciplined person.
I still had a lot to learn. I am still learning, I said. My friend smiled and replied, "It looks easy for you."
His words made me smile because I finally understood something important that I had never understood before. People often see the result, but they do not see the effort behind it. They see the strong body, but not the hours of training. They see the successful business, but not the years of struggle. They see the confident speaker, but not the thousands of mistakes, failures, and lessons that happened behind the scenes. At that moment, I realized that success always looks easy from a distance. When people look at someone who has achieved something great, they often see only the final result. They do not see the early mornings, the long nights, the sacrifices, the disappointments, or the moments when that person wanted to quit but chose to continue. I finally understood that success is not built in a single day. It is built through hard work, patience, consistency, and persistence. It is built through small actions, repeated over and over again, even when nobody is watching. That lesson changed the way I saw the world. From that day forward, I stopped looking at successful people and calling them lucky. Instead, I began to respect the effort, discipline, and dedication that had helped them reach their goals. And for the first time in my life, I understood that if I was willing to pay the price through hard work and patience, I could change my future too. About 1 year later, I had an opportunity that I had been waiting for. After months of learning, improving myself, and working toward my goals, I finally had a chance to start a small business. I was excited because this felt like the moment when all my hard work would begin to pay off. I believed that the long hours, the sacrifices, and the effort I had invested would finally bring me the success I had dreamed about for so many years. For the first time, I felt confident about my future, and I imagined that everything would go according to plan. However, life had another lesson waiting for me. After only a few months, the business failed. The results were not what I expected. I lost money, and many of my plans fell apart. I remember feeling disappointed, frustrated, and sad. I had worked hard, and yet things did not turn out the way I wanted. I wondered why all my effort had not been enough. I wondered if maybe I was not capable of succeeding after all. For a moment, I was tempted to return to my old way of thinking. I wanted to blame bad luck. I wanted to find excuses. I wanted to tell myself that success was only for other people. Most of all, I wanted to quit. Giving up seemed much easier than facing another failure. It seemed easier to stop trying than to risk being disappointed again. But during that difficult time, I remembered the lessons that had changed my life. I remembered the old farmer who taught me that every fruit comes from work. I remembered the wise teacher who told me that everything valuable has a price. As I thought about those lessons, I began to look at my failure differently. Maybe this failure was not the end of my journey. Maybe it was part of the price I had to pay in order to learn, grow, and become stronger. Instead of giving up, I decided to study my mistakes. I looked carefully at everything that had gone wrong. I asked myself honest questions and searched for honest answers. I learned from my errors instead of hiding from them. I worked on improving my skills, gaining more knowledge and understanding the things I had overlooked before. I also reached out to successful people and asked for their advice. Many of them shared stories about their own failures, and I was surprised to learn that almost
every successful person had faced setbacks along the way. Armed with new knowledge and a better understanding of my mistakes, I decided to try again. This time, I was wiser than before. The second attempt was better. I made fewer mistakes and handled challenges more effectively. Then I tried again, and the third attempt was even better. Little by little, step by step, I improved. Progress did not happen overnight, but it was happening. Every experience taught me something valuable, and every lesson helped me move forward. During this period of my life, I finally understood something that many people never realize. Failure is not the opposite of success. In many cases, failure is part of success. Every mistake teaches a lesson. Every lesson makes us stronger. Every challenge helps us grow into a better version of ourselves. The people who succeed are not the people who never fail. They are the people who refuse to stay down after they fail. They get up, learn from their experiences, and continue moving forward. That realization changed me deeply. I stopped being afraid of failure because I understood that failure was a teacher, not an enemy. It was showing me what I needed to improve. It was preparing me for future success. This understanding gave me a new kind of strength, a strength that did not come from confidence alone, but from experience, persistence, and the belief that no matter how many times I failed, I could always learn, improve, and try again. Many years later, my life looked very different from the way it had looked when I was young. The boy who once wanted everything to be easy had changed. Through hard work, patience, mistakes, and lessons, I had built a good business, created a happy family, and found a sense of peace that I had never known before. Looking back, I realized that none of those things had come quickly, and none of them had come for free. Every success had required effort. Every achievement had required sacrifice. Every step forward had required persistence. The journey had not always been easy, but it had been worth it. One day, while thinking about everything I had learned, a young boy approached me and asked a simple question. He looked at my life and saw the results, just as I had once looked at successful people and seen only their results. He asked, "What is the secret of your success?" His question immediately reminded me of my younger self, the version of me that believed successful people were simply lucky. I smiled because I knew exactly how he felt. I remembered the dreams I once had, the mistakes I made, and the lessons that completely changed the way I saw life. I began telling him about the old farmer I had met many years before. I told him how the farmer taught me that every fruit we enjoy comes from someone's hard work. Then I told him about the wise teacher who showed me that everything valuable has a price. I shared stories about my failures, my disappointments, my struggles, and the times when I wanted to quit. I explained that success was not a straight road. It was a journey filled with challenges, lessons, and opportunities to grow stronger. Then I looked at the boy and said, "There is no secret. Nothing is free in life." The boy seemed surprised by my answer, so I continued explaining what I meant. If you want knowledge, pay with study. If you want strength, pay with training. If you want success, pay with effort. If you want respect, pay with good character. If you want your dreams, pay with patience, discipline, and action. As I spoke, I realized how true those words were. Everything valuable in life requires something from us. Life rewards people who are willing to work, learn, improve, and keep moving forward. The reward may not come immediately, but it comes to those who stay committed to the journey. I looked up at the sky and smiled. Life gives rewards, I said, but first, life asks for effort. The young boy listened carefully. I could see that he was thinking deeply about every word. Before he left, I wanted to share one final lesson with him, the lesson that had changed my own life. Do not be afraid of hard work. Do not be afraid of failure. Do not be afraid of starting small. Every great achievement begins with a small step. The people who achieve great things are not always the smartest or the luckiest. Often, they are simply the people who refuse to give up. The boy thanked me and walked away with hope in his heart. As I watched him leave, I felt grateful for everything I had experienced. I was grateful for the farmer, the teacher, the failures, the struggles, and even the difficult moments that once seemed unfair. Those experiences had taught me lessons that success alone could never teach. Standing there, I finally understood the lesson I had ignored for so many years. The world is full of opportunities. Dreams can come true. Goals can be reached. Lives can change. But nothing valuable comes without effort. Everything worthwhile requires time, patience, and hard work. And that is actually good news. It means that your future is not controlled by luck alone. It is not decided by where you started or by the obstacles you face. It is shaped by the choices you make every day. It is shaped by your willingness to learn, grow, and continue moving forward, even when the journey becomes difficult. So keep learning, keep growing, keep working, keep believing. Never underestimate the power of small, daily actions, because one small step every day can completely change your life over time. And remember the lesson that changed my life forever. Nothing is free in life, but almost anything is possible for those who are willing to pay the price through hard work, patience, discipline, and persistence. The road may be long and the challenges may be difficult, but the rewards waiting at the end of that journey are worth every step. The end.